Dr. Kellenberger, Professor Goetschel, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, it's really a pleasure to participate in the Swisspeace annual conference. It gives me the welcome opportunity to congratulate Swisspeace for the excellent work that it has done over the years. I think that our cooperation is a great example of how knowledge, expertise, and innovation coming from a renowned research institute and think tank adds value to the UN's work. In particular, and this was written before I listened to you, Dr. Kellenberger, I want to highlight your activities in the area of mediation carried out under your mediation support project. The guidance for effective mediation, which was prepared by our Department of Political Affairs with your assistance, has now become an essential tool for mediators around the world. Next year, UN envoys and special representatives will be invited to a high-level mediation course organized in collaboration with Swisspeace. This training will provide the necessary skills and tools for those brokering peace in practice. So I thank you very much for contributing to develop and enhance the necessary capacities of those working at the front lines. Mediation is also a priority for us at the United Nations in Geneva. And I'm particularly grateful that thanks to a generous contribution of the government of Switzerland, we could establish last year a senior mediation officer position to support prevention and diplomatic peacemaking efforts. The investment in this post has already paid off. Since the arrival of our senior mediation officer, Enrico Formica, who unfortunately couldn't be with us today, we have been able to provide better substantive support to our envoys as Geneva is becoming an ever more sought-after venue for mediation. We have been seeing a clear increase in the number of mediation processes taking place in Geneva. Geneva is a well-established mediation hub, which will, I believe, significantly develop further. In a fragmented world, or increasingly fragmented world, its geographical location places it in proximity of some of the major conflicts preoccupying us all today. The Palais des Nations provides for a conducive environment for negotiations thanks to its history, its well-tested infrastructure, highly skilled staff, and Switzerland's neutrality, as well as the strong, effective, and pragmatic support of our host country, are seen as unique and enabling strengths. Ladies and gentlemen, the United Nations was formed with the intention to preserve future generations from the scourge of war. Since its creation in 1945, the peacekeeping and peacemaking missions of the UN have been evolving and increasing. Today, as we celebrate the 70th anniversary of the UN, 125,000 women and men are in active service in 16 peacekeeping missions on 4 continents. In addition, more than 3,300 personnel are serving in 11 political and peace-building missions. At the end of the Cold War, the number of conflicts was decreasing. During the last 4 years, unfortunately, developments in Syria, in Iraq, Libya, Yemen, Central African Republic, Mali, Sudan, as well as Ukraine, give the impression of a reversal of those statistics. According to the IISS Armed Conflict Survey, however, the number of armed conflicts have in fact decreased by 1/3 between 2008 and 2014, while the numbers of fatalities have tripled in the same period, from 56,000 to 180,000. So less conflicts, but becoming more deadly. At the same time, figures of the Geneva Declaration show that of 508,000 violent deaths per year, only 70,000, only in quotes, or 14%, were directly related to armed conflict. After Syria, the countries with the highest numbers of violent deaths in 2012 are Honduras and Venezuela. Labels such as internal, interstate, regional, sectarian, etc. have become less relevant and accurate. Instead, transnational forces of violent extremism and organized crime combined with terrorism have come to the fore. Internal and external factors are no longer easily separable. They overlap and reinforce each other. The question is not anymore only about armed conflict, it is about conflict more generally. Technology has allowed new ways of aggression. Cyber wars have brought important institutions to their knees, bypassing conventional defense mechanisms. Social media have served as platforms to spread hate and division. At the same time, they also provide important tools for participatory governance. With 7 billion mobile phone subscriptions on the planet today, more individuals has easy access to information and to making their voice heard. How will these newly empowered voices be taken into account by decision makers in the future? And what will be the consequences if they are ignored? A question we need to ponder. New causes of conflict are emerging. Conflicts over dwindling resources and environmental degradation, such as lack of access to water, climate change, pollution, disasters, all have become potential drivers of displacement and violence. In 2050, 75% of the world population will be living in cities. While urbanization can bring new economic opportunities, cities can and will also be sites of heightened interpersonal and collective violence. The likelihood of deterioration of peace as a consequence of urbanization will be greater in countries with weak rule of law, high levels of inequality, and therefore high levels of intergroup grievances. This will require a serious rethinking of how we collectively conduct the business of peace. Today we have a better intellectual understanding of the complex links and interdependencies that cause conflicts, and therefore also of the complexity of the solutions that are required. However, our institutional structures and tools put in place when the UN was first created in 1945 have not really followed suit. To respond to this new complexity, we have to bring the international construct, including the security architecture, into the 21st century. To start with the obvious, we need a reformed Security Council and a deep reconfiguration of the overall international architecture, the UN family and its multitude of partners that will maximize their undeniable experience, expertise, and high-quality human capital into a better targeted, focused, and impactful set of tools. And for that to happen, we will need much greater political will and engagement from all member states. And when I talk about multitude of partners, I obviously include the civil society in there. Two recent reviews have pinpointed important elements of our future responses to these needs. The report of the high-level panel on United Nations peace operations and a report of the advisory group of experts on the review on the peace-building architecture. I add to that also the report on the analysis of where we are on gender in these issues and the follow-up to the 1325 Security Council resolution. The two reviews focus on the pursuit of more long-term strategies. Undue haste and narrow focus on cessation of hostilities rather than addressing root causes are significant factors of relapse into conflict. Too often, peace accords and elections are rushed without ensuring local ownership and therefore sustainability. Prevention, mediation, and peacemaking need to be followed by a post-conflict process of sustaining peace. According to a World Bank study, the peaceful future of a country is decided in the first 7 years after the end of a conflict. The situation today in the South Sudan is a case in point, illustrating that we still do not pay enough attention to the complex issue of sustaining peace after the end of conflict. We also have to be more inclusive in the planning and implementation of our activities. No United Nations mission will have the desired impact economically, politically, or militarily when it does not ensure the support of the local populations. The international community must really learn to enable, not to impose peace. Therefore, cookie-cutter solutions will no longer do. Peace operations have to be better tailored to specific situations. And the challenges, in that context, the challenges we face today are too complex to be addressed by one organization alone. At the global and regional level, we have to strengthen partnerships within the UN family, with regional organizations and other partners, including civil society, to achieve a better coordinated analysis and response. I believe that regional organizations will play a more important role in the future, and we have to strengthen our collaboration with them, our meaning the UN, but in general. I think that, and not only collaboration, but also help strengthen their abilities to actually play that role, that strengthened role in the future. We have to do better at integrating women into peacemaking and peace-building processes. 15 years ago, the Security Council adopted Resolution 1325, which calls for equal participation of women in the efforts of maintaining peace. And I very much welcome the work done in this area by Swisspeace, supporting the realization of national action plans for implementing Resolution 1325. Globally, however, we still have a lot of work to do. Gender disparity continues at international and national levels, also in peacekeeping missions, and we have a collective responsibility to do much better. We also need to even greater integration of human rights in our activities. Here too, Swisspeace has been making important contributions with its work on preventing human rights violations through businesses. Human rights are now an integral component of every UN mission. At present, 6 special and political missions have a special human rights monitoring mandate. Many others are engaged in activities such as capacity building and support to national authorities in the implementation of human rights norms and standards. The Secretary General's Human Rights Upfront initiative has been able to link up the organization's political, development and human rights work in order to enhance capacity to identify signs of serious human rights abuses and potential conflict, thereby enabling more effective prevention. We need to get better at similarly integrating disparate efforts in our system in economic and social fields into better integrated analysis and therefore better targeted responses to all root causes of potential conflicts. Prevention has to become the first priority. The United Nations has made progress in prevention by strengthening the good offices of the Secretary General, the work of its envoys, regional office, United Nations country teams, and the professionalization of prevention and mediation services at headquarters. I mentioned our attempts to help in that with the establishment of a prevention officer in Geneva. At the rhetorical level, there is strong support for early warning and conflict prevention, but this has to be translated into political support and early action. We have proven that the Security Council early engagement and unity can achieve significant results in terms of prevention, but this is still an exception to the rule when it does happen. The Institute for Economics and Peace that developed the Global Peace Index, that I'm sure most of you are familiar with, also underlines prevention and has developed a positive peace framework. It suggests that 8 elements are conducive to peace. These include acceptance of the rights of others, alongside well-functioning government, equitable distribution of resources, free flow of information, good relations with neighbors, high levels of human capital, low levels of corruption, and a sound business environment. These factors have been found to be correlated with capacity for resilience and non-violent conflict resolution. In their interaction, they can reinforce each other into a virtuous cycle of peace. The elements of the positive peace concept are closely correlated with the priorities of the new Sustainable Development Agenda: economic growth and employment, environmental sustainability, greater food security, gender empowerment, access to water and energy, etc. Countries scoring high on the Positive Peace Index progressed further in achieving the Millennium Development Goals that preceded the new SDG framework. But climate change and further deterioration of the environment will still be major drivers of conflict. Poverty and inequality also continue to be important drivers of conflict. The trust deficit that we are currently experiencing at national and international level, that engenders a deep feeling of injustice and inequality. And this trust deficit needs to be addressed urgently, as it seriously undermines our actions in every field of intervention. The 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and its Sustainable Development Goals that was recently approved in New York integrates all of these elements. We have to see peace and security, development and human rights as one. Achieving the SDGs will give us a much greater chance at also achieving peace. The goals are certainly challenging, but they are achievable. The SDGs acknowledge the interconnectedness of today's challenges. To achieve them, we have to find new ways of operating. Cross-cutting challenges and solutions require different ways of functioning. We have to adjust the national and international structures of cooperation to new complex challenges. Member states, as we see progressing now, will no longer be the only decisive actors in the future. There will be a multitude of stakeholders. Given the new interconnectedness, we need a new generation of multiple partnerships that allow us to go from superficial consultation of non-state actors towards including them better at the decision-making table. I firmly believe that a world in peace is possible, and I'm strongly encouraged by the great commitment I see around me. In Geneva alone, a recent mapping shows that at least 59 organizations are working on peace or peace-related issues. when they cooperate and form transversal partnerships with the other actors engaged in development and human rights, they have a much improved impact. In fact, a majority of the agencies and organizations that will be working on implementing the Sustainable Development Goals that provide an integrated framework for all these aspects are based in Geneva. The city is a unique place where it is possible to find solutions for prevention and responses that connects the different actors. We need to bring new ideas to our peace efforts in line with today's realities. The 2 reviews on peace operations and peace-building architecture provide one starting point, but that is not enough. We need to strengthen cross-pollination between operational actors and academic thinkers and researchers like yourselves. A sustained dialogue on how operational needs and academic research can enrich, focus, and strengthen each other is an imperative if we are to translate research findings into strategies that work in practice, providing innovative ideas and out-of-the-box strategies. Solid analysis and innovative ideas must guide our way during the next 15 years and beyond. I thank you very much, and I look forward to our discussion.